Good evening, and thank you for joining us. As the red ink continues to mount, Thunder Bay Mayor Bill Morrow isn't ready to criticize senior levels of government for a lack of financial support for municipalities, but Morrow says that money will have to come soon. This as Thunder Bay continues to assess the financial damage of COVID-19 while the local economy begins to reopen. Ryan Benazzo has more.
Expanded social gatherings and the return of restaurant patios, shopping malls, and hair salons are exciting developments for many residents, but Mayor Bill Morrow continues to preach caution.
The messaging remains the same. We need to be cautious whether it's 5 or 10 or 25. The physical distancing piece is fundamental to remaining safe and limiting the spread of the virus.
Both Ottawa and the province have spent millions in an effort to help businesses survive COVID-19 closures, but the same can't be said about municipalities, which have received almost no support as of yet, despite being mandated to deliver a number of vital services.
Municipalities across the country, not just in Ontario, have not received the same attention that other groups and other organizations have.
On Tuesday, CUPE slammed the province for not responding to a joint letter sent almost a month ago from the Union and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, urging the Ford government to provide immediate support. Morrow still believes help is on the way, both from the province and the feds, and he isn't ready to criticize just yet.
But if it goes on much longer, and if ultimately we don't receive any assistance from senior orders of government on both operating deficits and infrastructure funding, I think you'll hear municipalities provincial-wide have some very strong language.
City Council will get updated COVID-19 financial numbers this summer, but early projections had pegged the deficit at about $13 million by the end of the year. Council has already approved a number of cost containment measures, and on Monday is expected to move last year's $3.4 million tax surplus into the Stabilization Reserve Fund. That, coincidentally, would bring that fund up to $13 million, though some councillors have already expressed a reluctance to completely drain that fund in order to balance the books. Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
The Thunder Bay District Health Unit is reporting 2 new cases of COVID-19 in the region. The cases involve a female in her 20s and a second female below the age of 20. Both are from First Nations communities and are self-isolating at home. That brings the number of active cases in the region to 6, with the other 4 all currently at the Regional Health Sciences Centre. The overall total of cases in the Thunder Bay District is now up to 89. There has been 1 fatality. One of the best-known hospitals for children in the country, and now Toronto Sick Kids Hospital has released a set of guidelines it wants the Ontario government to follow as it plans to reopen schools in the fall. The report says keeping schools closed in September would have a negative impact on the mental health of children. Colin DeMello has more.
It's one of the biggest questions on parents' minds. Will students be able to return to school this September? Today, the Hospital for Sick Children says yes, they can.
We strongly believe that it is of utmost importance that we open schools in September.
Doctors at Sick Kids have been advising the government on how to reopen schools this fall. It begins, they say, with the monitoring of symptoms. Physicians say parents should be the ones keeping a close watch on their child's health and keeping them home if they're sick. But schools should be prepared as well.
There should be plans in place if a child feels sick at school to have them safely separated from other children and staff and have families and caregivers contacted to pick up the child.
Doctors are advising against temperature checks for students because of the potential for lineups. And masks, they say, should be optional, not mandatory.
You can imagine in younger children, masks can be irritating, which may lead to increased touching of their face or eyes or nose, which could increase the risk of infection.
Inside the school, doctors say there should be limits on class sizes. Furniture should be rearranged for physical distancing purposes, and lunch times should be staggered as well. But physicians say the school environment should be as normal as possible, and kids shouldn't have to physically distance during lunch.
Close interactions such as playing and socializing is really central to child development and should not be discouraged.
While the government has not made a final decision, the medical opinion carries weight.
If they think the green light's good to go, then we're going to follow their lead, and we're going to put in really stringent protocols.
Ford says educators and staff who are off sick due to COVID-19 will have their jobs protected.
An agency that helps plan and advocate for workforce improvements in the region has launched a public survey looking to gauge the impact of COVID-19 on people in the Thunder Bay District. The survey was developed by the North Superior Workforce Planning Board, which covers the area from Manitowaj to Uppsala. Workers, post-secondary students, and those who are currently unemployed are being asked to fill out the survey, which takes about 10 minutes to complete. Planning Board Executive Director Madge Richardson says the needs of the North aren't always brought to the provincial cabinet table, and she wants to gain an understanding of whether advocacy needs to be done for any particular group.
We want to hear what sort of impact the COVID-19 has had on their personal and professional lives. So what's happening? Are there programs in place? And hear their stories. What's behind the difficulties they might be facing, the challenges, or have they anything positive has come out of it?
The survey is available through the North Superior Workforce Planning Board's social media accounts. It'll be up for 1 week with follow-up surveys monthly to gauge the impact of COVID-19 over time. There's been a major development for a Thunder Bay medical technology firm. Regen Med has announced it's been awarded accreditation through the American Association of Tissue for processing human skin. The news follows the soft launch of DermGen, which is Canada's first acellular dermal matrix. The healing material is the end result of a process which takes human skin from a cadaver to create a clean dermal matrix that the body won't reject. It's then placed on wounds to create a biological scaffold which accelerates healing. The practice will have a significant impact on those with diabetic foot ulcers, which causes below-the-knee leg amputations for about 2,300 Ontarians a year. DermGen will have a heightened impact here in the Northwest due to higher diabetes rates, chronic non-healing foot ulcers, and associated amputations. Regen Med Executive Director David Stazenko says the practice may change the way these conditions are treated here in the Northwest.
In terms of the acellular dermal matrix, there are leading key opinion leaders in the clinical space who believe this may change the standard of care for treating diabetic foot ulcers. This could significantly lower the number of amputations at the knee due to those wounds not healing. So that's the big piece.
Stazenko says they've hired 2 more employees since launching the DermGen practice. He expects more staff to be hired in the future as the company has formed partnerships with 3 First Nations communities in northwestern Ontario. Stazenko says they'll be working closely on clinical studies at a new treatment center in Emo. A prospective buyer has emerged for the Thunder Bay generating station. Officials with Ontario Power Generation has confirmed an unnamed party is in negotiations with the company. Both the City of Thunder Bay and the Community Economic Development Commission had hoped the site could be repurposed as an economic development tool. OPG spokesperson Neil Kelly wouldn't go into details on the potential buyer's plans for the plant, but did say, as a publicly owned company, we have a responsibility to select the proponent that delivers the best value for the benefit of Ontario taxpayers. The sale does not include the generating station's ash landfill. The former coal plant shut down in 2018 after costs to keep it running had grown too high. The Lexington Crescent home has suffered significant damage in an overnight fire. Fire crews responded around 11 o'clock and needed roughly an hour to extinguish the flames that consumed much of the rear portion of the residence. The occupants managed to escape the home without injury. Fire investigator Kevin Anderson says it's clear from burn patterns that the fire originated from outside of the structure.
They were barbecuing last night, but the barbecue is far away from the house and not anywhere in the burn pattern, so we've been able to eliminate the barbecue. And now we just look at electrical, we look at smoking, all those things, and we go by one by one and rule them out. And hopefully we'll find something. It's not guaranteed, but we'll just do our process and go through.
Anderson says he believes the blaze originated near a plastic deck bin, but there's not enough evidence to determine what actually caused it. A former early childhood educator who was convicted on possession of child pornography charges in 2013 has been arrested again on a similar charge. Police say they started their most recent investigation back in January after receiving information about suspicious online posts. That led to the search of a Rupert Street home on Tuesday, where they seized electronic devices containing what's believed to be child pornography. 37-year-old Mark Philip Lettinen has been remanded into custody pending a future court appearance. June is ALS Awareness Month, and due to COVID-19, this year's edition of the Walk to End ALS will look quite different. The annual event, which raises money to fight and find a cure for the disease, will be held virtually. This Sunday, June 21st, the public is being encouraged to get out and walk to show their support of this very important cause. Troy Charles has more.
Last year's walk to end ALS in Thunder Bay was a huge success. Thanks to the many donors, $80,000 was raised for research and community support. Unfortunately, this year, because of the pandemic, it will be a bit more difficult to keep that momentum going. But that's not going to stop Matthew Mustapik and his family from getting together for the virtual walk on Sunday to show their support for their father and all the others affected by the disease. Matthew's father, Tom, was a longtime administrator with the Thunder Bay Catholic District School Board, as well as a highly respected high school basketball coach, and he was diagnosed with ALS last year. Matthew and his family know firsthand how important this walk is and the impact it can have on everyone involved.
Yeah, so I think last year we really got a good idea of how many people in Thunder Bay are affected by ALS directly and indirectly, and how much support people are willing to provide. So it's a little unfortunate that we weren't able to kind of build on that momentum, but I think that the ALS Society of Canada was creative this year and figured out a good way to still have the walk and still raise money. And I know I can speak personally that the money helps a lot in Thunder Bay, providing equipment to people with ALS, and they also do great work providing research. So hopefully we can one day find a cure.
This Sunday also happens to be Global ALS Awareness Day, and usually ALS walks happen at different times of the year all over the country. But this year, everyone all across Canada will be walking on the same date. Nicole Desha is the regional manager for ALS Canada. She says while this year's event will be different, it should still be enjoyable.
June 21st, which is Sunday, at 9:30. Everyone can gather virtually. There'll be a kickoff. We have an MC. We have some special guest speakers. One of them is Rick Mercer. We have some other guest speakers that are going to be participating on the day of the virtual walk, virtually, of course. And then the walk will kick off at 9:45. Everyone can do their own walk or a way to honor people living with ALS and their families. It could be rollerblading, it could be kayaking, whatever their activity of choice.
There are about 25 people in northwestern Ontario battling the deadly disease, which breaks down the brain's ability to control voluntary muscles. Along with the walk, there will also be a silent auction where people can bid on a variety of items. The auction ends on June 21st. Troy Charles, TBT News.
One of Canada's most influential Indigenous leaders was called upon to share some pearls of wisdom at Lakehead University's virtual Indigenous student graduation last night. But 180 graduating students from dozens of LU programs were honored on Tuesday. They were delivered a powerful keynote address from National Chief Perry Bellegarde of the Assembly of First Nations. He touched on the reason yesterday's ceremony was held virtually, COVID-19, and its disproportionate impact on minority communities. Bellegarde also spoke about long-standing systemic racism against Indigenous people and the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as the graduates' newfound power to enact meaningful change.
By educating yourselves, by getting to the point you have reached today, you have already accumulated a great deal of power. The question is, what will you do with it? You have likely heard that phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. And I'm confident you will exercise that responsibility and power to better yourselves, your communities, your country, and the world.
Bellegarde says that power is a tool, and it's up to those who possess it to decide how to use it. Lakehead Public High School's continued graduation week today. A large number of students from Superior Collegiate came on their driveways to receive their gowns and diplomas. The Lakehead Public School Board started special home visits for all of their graduating students yesterday. For the rest of the week, the grads will be getting their diplomas and gowns delivered to their driveways. Staff from Superior Collegiate will visit close to 150 grads over the next few days to deliver lawn signs and take photos for a virtual grad video, which will be available to all students. 2 Superior students who came out to receive their diplomas today say they're grateful for the effort by the faculty.
I mean, it's definitely appreciated. It's been disappointing not having the big ceremony and such, but even this is fine for me. It's I very much appreciated that especially Mr. McDonnell and Mr. Loney are putting in the effort to go to students' houses to congratulate them in any way possible.
It means a lot. It's nice to see them again. Sucks that we don't get the regular grad that we are expecting, but still means a lot.
The schools say they're hopeful they can finish all deliveries by tomorrow.
And honestly, we would like to have more of those ceremonies because every time we do a story on them, the weather outside has generally been very, very nice. And
Like
today,
good luck.
a lot of good luck, yeah. Today was much of the same, Fiona.
Oh, from the get-go. Beautiful start to the day, a low of 12, warm